Welcome to the Art of Lifting podcast. Today I'm joined by Joe. Did you want to just introduce yourself a little bit?
Yep. So what's up, guys? I'm Joe Borenstein. I'm now an 83 kilo lifter. Most of my career I was a 74, 75, but this past year I did move up a weight class. I've been in the sport for over 7 years. I've been coaching for over 2 years now under my brand Pound for Pound Coaching, and I currently hold the highest total of all time in the 83 kilo class. I'm also a junior, just turned 22, so I have another year there. And yeah, I'm just excited to be on this podcast. Thank you for inviting me, and let's get to it.
Perfect. Thank you for coming on. You literally mentioned one of the first things I was going to speak to you about, because I know obviously you were 74 before. Like, I'm a big fan of powerlifting. I've kind of followed your training and stuff for the last couple of years. I didn't realize you started in 2018 when you were 15 years old?
Yeah, I just turned 15 during 2018 meet. And that actual meet, I had no idea what powerlifting was. I didn't even know you're supposed to squat in a meet. Like, I saw what it said, full power / push pull, and for some reason I had no idea what full power meant. Like, I looked at it and I was like, okay, full power, I'm gonna give it my all. It just means be powerful, right? And then I saw push pull and I was like, oh shit, push pull means, bench press and deadlift, because I was doing the push pull leg split. So I was like, okay, so I guess you're not squatting at this meet, but it says full power, so that means we're gonna be real strong, I guess. I had no idea what it meant. I was 15, like I said, but I knew what push pull meant. So I was like, okay, no squatting. I had no knee sleeves. I was wearing these Adidas NMD shoes, which are like running shoes, and I still ended up PRing, so that was cool. But yeah, that was my first ever meet, 2015, and that's what really got me into the sport, I'd say.
Yeah, one thing I also found really interesting. So you only moved up to the 83s, the start of this year? Start of this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you were 72.9 when you were 15 at that first comp. That's a long time. A lot of, like, especially the age of 15 to 21 or 20, 21 to stay in one weight class. Like, what was the decision behind that? Was it just that you were competitive as you kind of got into it, or?
Well, I was never actually competitive. I'm not even sure what my total was, like 10 kilo, 540 or something like that. I don't even know what it was.
I mean, when you were 15, it was 462, but it quickly went.
Never mind. That was really lower. But yeah, so at the time I was, 72, 73 kilo, but I was also like 5'2", 5'1". So I'm not sure what that is in centimeters. Because I'm 172, 173 now. So what is that, like 160, 162 centimeters?
If that, I think it might be slightly less. It's about that though, I think.
Yeah, so I wasn't the leanest. I had quite a bit of body fat. But I mean, you're 15. You're still going through puberty. You have that baby fat. So my goal was just to like stay lean and like look better, like, because I trained for strength, but also to get a better physique, right? And one of the biggest things was like, I want to be lean. I want to have abs. And so as I grew taller, my body weight kind of stayed the same. So I was leaning out. So yeah, my biggest thing was just to like be better looking, so to say, with my shirt off. So that was my biggest driving factor. And then as I was like 17, I started really filling out the class. I was probably like 75, 76 kilo. And that's when I actually started cutting down. And that's when I noticed I was above 600 kilo at the time. I was like 640 at 17. And I was like, oh shit, like this is a national record for my age and weight. So I decided to stay in the class. I was like, all right, I'm gonna take it year by year now. And every single year, even though I stayed in the same class, the cuts got bigger, but I kept getting stronger and kept performing. So I was like, well, why am I gonna move up if training's going good? I keep looking better and I keep getting stronger. So that was my thought process. And then sooner or later, I just got too big for the class to the point where I was like, I'm starving every day. I'm too lean right now. So that's when I actually had to move up.
I think I remember, that's just triggered a memory. I was listening to you on King of the Lift, and I think you said you think it might have even stunted your growth a little bit, the fact that you were just under eating, but literally during like probably the most vital years of your development, like you were just starving yourself to stay in that class.
Yeah, I would have to agree on that. Puberty is where you grow the most in terms of like height, mental, just everything. Puberty is like it's like almost steroids, right? Like when you're growing, you're growing sideways and upwards. So I kind of starved myself. I don't think it was I didn't get negatively impacted too much. I mean, I still got stronger, but I think I could have been in a higher position right now if I didn't cut back then. But you know what? I wouldn't change it for the world. I am where I am, and I'm happy to where I'm at. And yeah, I could have been stronger, but for example, like I wouldn't have done 800 at 74 if that was the case. I wouldn't have done 820 at the Arnold at 74 if that was the case. So the journey I'm on right now, like I'm proud of it, and I'm very blessed. So
Yeah, of course. And you can't change what's happened. Like, you've hit some massive milestones in the 74, 75 class. So there's no point regretting not going up sooner. One thing I want to ask you before we dive into obviously going up a weight class and what's been going on over the last couple of years is how you actually found powerlifting in the first place.
Well, the sport itself, like why I got into competing, I was 14 and I benched like 250, so like a little under 120 kilo. And a guy in my gym, he was pretty old. He was like 24, 25. He's like, "Oh, you're a strong kid. I'm doing a meet at this Orlando competition, which is like 4 hours from where I lived." So I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna ask my mom and dad to drive me and take me to this meet." So that's the first meet I did, and I didn't even know why I didn't ask him for squatting or not. I didn't even bother asking him, but I just thought we didn't need to squat. So I pulled up to the meet. I learned where was the squat. I hit the PRs. I hit PR on actually all 3 lifts on that day, and that's like triggered my spark into the sport. But before that, I was like looking into just overall like gym stuff, and that's when I came across guys like Jeff Nippard, because he was a powerlifter at the time. Candido was a powerlifter, and the biggest names were probably Larry Wheels and then Russ. So that's when I was like, oh wait, this is an actual sport. And then after my meet, that's when I started deep diving into my weight class, the 74 class, and that's when Taylor Atwood was like just winning his world championships. Perk was still like in college against Pug and the Michael C battle and all that. So I was like, oh wait, this is like a real competitive thing that I can join into and have like rivalries with. At the time, I had no idea I was going to be where I'm at now, but I just saw the potential in the sport of powerlifting, and then over the years, it just grew exponentially, and that's what probably just kept me into it.
No, that's really interesting. I bet it feels like a full circle moment now that Russ is one of your like closest competitors as well. If he was one of the big names when you first started.
Exactly. Yeah. I was almost in awe at first. Actually, my first nationals when I met Perkins, I was almost like fanboying almost. I was stuttering. I was shaking. I was like, and I'm like, now I'm just like his contemporary almost. So it's kind of cool how I'm like looking up to these guys growing up, and then now I'm just like at their level, which is amazing to see.
No, it's really cool. Did you play much sports before powerlifting? Did you do much else when you were growing up?
Oh yeah, for sure. I was always an athletic kid. I always went to the park. I was like my main sport though growing up was baseball. I did that for 10 years until 17. That was my last year of high school because I decided to go to college a year early. So I just stopped playing baseball after that because my thought process was like, why would I pursue a sport if I'm wasting my time and money and I'm not gonna have a career out of it? I wasn't like horrible by any means. Like I was playing varsity and all that, but I wasn't gonna make D1 or anything. I wasn't going pro. So that's when I really started going to powerlifting. And the reason I actually started lifting in the first place was one to get better at baseball as well. But then I just fell in love with the weights instead, and I decided to go all in there. So yeah.
So slight side tangent. Obviously, I don't understand. Like, I'm in the UK, college in America, slightly different system to what we have here. You went to college a year early. Does that mean you're actually like incredibly clever, or is that like a normal thing to do over there?
I think it's well. You have to have like a good GPA, like you have to have good academics to even like qualify for that. I was still registered into high school though, but all my courses were at my local college or my local university. So I was able to. It's called dual enrollment over here. So or early admission, right? So you get early admitted into college. I did that because the high school will pay for all your courses, and in America, the price of uni is so expensive. It's crazy over here. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna save some money, not go to high school, and be on a faster track compared to my contemporary. So I was like, might as well do it. And then I got my 2-year degree and transferred over to my big university over here in Orlando.
And I'm right in thinking you've just finished university now?
Yeah, I'm graduating on the 13th of December. Yeah, it's on a Friday, I believe. Next Friday.
What are you studying? What are you going to be qualified in?
Oh, kinesiology. So almost like exercise science, sports physiology. Yeah.
Yeah, we are going to. I'm jumping around a bit now, but I was going to ask you because you coach as well. Are you going to? Is the plan now to kind of go into full-time coaching? I mean, it might already be pretty much full-time. Like, what are you thinking now?
Yeah, so I've been full-time coaching for, I think, like without a secondary job, because I had 2 jobs at a point when I was coaching, but I've been doing like full-time for almost a year, I believe, or a year and a half maybe. It's only a roster size of 30, maybe 35 at most sometimes. So I'm going to expand that to 40 to 50. And I always hear this online, like, oh, when the coach says I got 5 spots available, I actually only say that when I actually have like 5 spots left or when I'm opening spots up, because I like for example, my it's not an itinerary, but like my coaching form that I have people fill out, there's over 250 applicants. So like I'm not picking up all. Like, I could have picked up everyone and had like 100 athletes, and no, I'm not doing that. I want my 30 to 35 to focus on my lifting and my school. But now since I'm graduating, I'm gonna have time to increase it a bit to like 40, 45, maybe 50. I'm not sure yet. I'll first go to 40, see how it feels, and then maybe go up from there. Because I really don't want to just spread myself thin and then not be able to put all my effort into my athletes. So
I like that you mentioned that, because so I've just cut my full-time job down to coach more. But I was in the same thing of seeing all these people being like, "Oh, you're talking shit if you've only got 3 spaces. You're a liar. Like you can take on as much." I'm like, not really. Like not if I want to actually train and live. Like there is a limit to how many people you should be taking on. So I think it's good that you mentioned that. But no, I think that's really cool. Yeah, and I mean, like you say, you've already got a lot of people interested, so it'll be good to see how that goes for you.
Thank you.
So we'll go back to your training. So when you first started powerlifting then, so I'm assuming you didn't know from day one that you were going to be competitive. It was just a case of enjoying the sport?
Kind of. I always knew I had potential to be strong. I don't know how strong and where my top end was. Clearly, I don't even know what my top end is now. Like I'm still progressing at a fast rate. So I'm just going to keep going and just like keep grinding away. But yeah, when I first started, like I said, it was just for aesthetics, getting stronger, and for baseball. To the point where I'm like, okay, now I just like to lift weights and I just enjoy the journey itself. And that's what like keeps me into the sport. And then seeing the results at hand also helps me.
Yeah, no, of course. So you moved up to 83, well, technically, I guess, end of last year. I think you competed March last year, 2023, and then that was your last meet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what was the decision to move up in the end then? Was it just that it was just too difficult to keep cutting? Was it injury based? Was it a mixture of things?
Definitely a mixture. So after 2023 Nationals for USAPL, that was the time I did 800. I was planning on going, or I wasn't planning, but I was iffy on whether or not to do the Arnold Pro Finals or go to PA Nationals and go against Russ. But my thought process was like, yo, Russ just did like 930 in the gym. Like at that same exact time, it was like it was a pound plate and all that. Like his grip slipped, his squat was high, whatever. But 930, if you add up all the lifts, I was expecting 870, 880, 890 at PA Nats. So I was like, okay, I'm at 800. Russ gonna be at 870 plus. Could I catch up in only 6 months? Realistically, no, I couldn't. Hindsight 2020, he only did 860, but still, that I think I couldn't have done that just yet. So around midway through the time frame between USAPL Nats and PA Nationals, I was like, okay, I'm just going to keep bulking. But then that's when the prize money came out for the Arnold, and I was like, $20,000 is a lot of money. So I was around 83 kilo when they announced that, and that was the exact midway point between the two meets. So I was like, okay, I think I should just cut back down 75 one last time. Secure or not try to secure the 20,000, which I ended up doing, but secure the 20,000 or lose to Russ and come home with nothing, right? So I was like, all right, I'd rather just take 20,000. And for a college student that only works or only has like 30 athletes, I'm not super well off, right? I just do it to get by and to live almost comfortably. But yeah, 20,000, I was like, okay, I can't lose on that. I'm gonna secure it, and then the year after, I'll bulk up to 83, or after that meet, I'll bulk up to 83. But when I did progress, or when I was bulking initially from 75 to 83 after the USAPL Nationals, before I decided to go back down, I was progressing at a very, very fast rate. So that kind of gave me like some insight if like whether or not if I were to bulk fully and secure the class and go like 84, 85, 86, I would have even further gains and even more progress. So having that little taste at first before the last cut is what kind of like sparked my idea and made me fully commit to bulking up to 83 after Arnold.
Yeah. Have you filled the 83s, or are you still somewhat light 83?
Well, filled in the sense that I'm 84 right now, yes, but filled in the sense that I can still lose some like body fat and make bigger cuts, no, because before the Arnold, like a week out, I was 79. I cut 4 kilos in a week, so that's all through gut cut, laxative, water cut, spitting, and all that. So I think I can probably do another 4 kilo cut. So that puts me at 87. And I can also get leaner. So I think far from filling out the class. I have another like 4 to 5 kilos of pure lean tissue to gain while dropping body fat and adding the cuts. So
Yeah, I guess it's good to know as well, like from doing the cuts at 74, like, you can cut when you have to. So
Yeah.
you have that like reassurance in the back of your mind that when you do get heavier, you can still make it. With with filling up the 83s and everything, then you're quite big on body composition as well. Like, what is your nutrition like? Is it something that you're quite dialed in on? Do you track all your food? Like, what's that side of things like for you?
So I was tracking at a 74, 75 kilo body weight because every little gram of food, it felt like it was affecting me up or down. But now I'm a little more lenient. All I do is track protein and total calories. And that's pretty much it. Like, besides that, I'm pretty dialed on the food sources. I'm eating whole foods, a lot of red meat, eggs, cheese, milk, stuff like that. Just, my fiance calls it, when she opens up the fridge, she says we're an ingredient household. And I'm like, well, that's how I like to eat. I don't want to buy ready-made foods. I mean, sometimes I get Chipotle or Chick-fil-A, but those are, in my opinion, the healthiest fast food sources we can eat. Because I'm getting like 2 grilled chicken sandwiches from Chick-fil-A. It has tomato, pickle, and lettuce. Like, that's not unhealthy, right? And then Chipotle is kind of self-explanatory. So yeah, like, most of my diet is pretty locked in, and I have the occasional like sweet at night. Like, for example, I have like my protein yogurt, and I put like Oreos inside of it. But besides that, like, I'm pretty locked in.
Yeah, no, I think that's really important. I've mentioned on podcasts before, like, I'm really interested in the nutrition side, and I do think people are really noticing now, like, the importance of eating more whole foods and just eating more of that sort of thing. And I'd imagine if that's how you eat most of the time, you probably notice the impact on your training as soon as you don't eat like that.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, if I don't get my protein in or anything, like, the next day I just feel like shit. Or like, let's say I just have too much like sodium, for example, like the belt doesn't fit right the next day. Like, so like, I don't do it just like, yes, I eat for fuel, but the foods I'm eating also taste really good. So I'm not going to eat junk food just for the short-term pleasure when I know the next day I'll pay for it. So
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. I completely agree. So obviously you are one of the top lifters in the world at the moment. And I was intrigued if there's anything that you think that you and these other top level lifters do that sets you apart. Like, do you think it's just a case of so much consistency in all of these different areas over a long period of time? Obviously, genetics will play a part as well, but I just wondered if there was something or several things that you think that you maybe do that other people neglect, that's quite common to neglect as well.
I'd say, well, obviously the genetics aspect, that's a huge thing. So it's a combination of genetics and lifestyle. And by lifestyle, I mean like the sacrifices you make, right? A lot of people, they have full-time jobs, so they're not going to sacrifice their income for a sport in which you're not really making too much money. Only like what 0.1% of powerlifters ever can make a full-time income off this. So I can't give them too much like fault on that, but it's all sacrifice. So like, for example, I have athletes that, not to talk shit about them, like, I love my athletes, but some of them, they go out and drink once in a while. I never drink ever. Sometimes they stay up late, like, I'm not doing that. Even if I do stay up late, I'll make sure to get my 8, 9, 10 hours regardless. So if I go to sleep at like 2 p.m., sometimes I'm gonna wake up at 12. You know what I mean? Like, I'll do it because I need the sleep, and I know I don't have a full-time job the day after, so I can get that sleep regardless. So I'm kind of blessed in that scenario, and I think most top-end powerlifters, at least now, like, currently, they're following that same trend. I mean, you saw guys like Jurgens have a full-time job, and other like top-end powerlifters, but I think it's becoming more common for these guys to just like fully focus on the sport itself. But I think to even get to that point, you need the genetics to even reach there. So it's a give and take type of thing. Like, yes, the top-end powerlifters are making more sacrifices, but it's because they can. And I think that's the main reason.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really, really good answer. So sorry, I'm just completely missed off my list. So you mentioned obviously different aspects of recovery and stuff there. So obviously you mentioned sleep, we've spoken about nutrition, and just, I'm guessing like you're quite in control of like just general life stresses as well. Like, obviously you're self-employed, especially now you finish uni as well. Like, you're self-employed, you can manage your hours, you can manage your schedule around what you need to. Are there any other things that you do for recovery? Like, even just little things like foam rolling or like saunas, massages, like, is there anything else that you worry about? Or do you think kind of the basics are enough?
Well, the basics will cover 99.9% of it. The data behind things like foam rolling or deep tissue massage, cryo chambers, all that, acupuncture even, it's kind of iffy. I mean, if you believe it's working and that placebo starts kicking in, then by all means do it. Like, for example, I get deep tissue massages every single month. I'm not really sure how much it helps in terms of recovery. All I know is that it reduces stress, and the lower cortisol levels does help recovery. So it's like it indirectly helps it, right? But getting massages doesn't like directly make you like recover faster. That's not the case. The things that contribute to it, like the increased blood flow and like the lower stress levels, like I said, that's what's actually helping the recovery. So I do my deep tissue, I do mobility work. Step counts are actually huge. I standardize step counts almost every single day. Like I might miss a day here and there, but I try to get 10K every single day, and this just helps with blood flow and just mobilizing my hips, which prevents injury. And you're at your strongest when you're injury free. So just trying to maintain that, and obviously, like I said, food and sleep. Those are the main money makers, I'd say.
Yeah, so I'm glad you mentioned injury there, because I actually want to ask you. So you competed at junior nationals earlier this year, and was it your back that got injured? Was it on squats?
Yep, my lower back. Yep.
Yeah, and then a matter of weeks later, you got invited to do Raleigh.
I did.
Obviously, you had an incredible performance at Raleigh. I just wanted to know, like, what was the thought process? Like, what did you do in that time frame to get yourself not just healthy enough to obviously lift, but healthy enough to hit those lifts as well?
Well, the injury at junior nationals was only a re-aggravation, I believe, of the original injury I sustained pre-Arnold. Because before the Arnold, my intensities were going really high because I was peaking, but I was also cutting to 74, 75. So that's what originally caused the injury. And then I never, took time to pull back. I did take time to pull back, but because I showed up on meet day, like at junior nationals, stronger than ever. Like I honestly felt stronger at junior nationals than I did at Raleigh. But my back ended up snapping on the third squat. I don't think it snapped, but like I said, it re-aggravated. And when it did re-aggravate, it seized up my entire lower back, and it caused inhibition in my legs. It's almost like my body's way of stopping myself from further injury, right? So I don't the pain I did feel at junior nats was extreme. I thought I was going to be done for months, because it felt way worse than the injury I sustained before the Arnold. It felt 10 times worse. I was like, oh shit, I'm done. I'm cooked for the year. But like I said, it was my body just seizing up on itself to prevent further injury. So as the weeks went on between junior nationals and Raleigh now, I was able to slowly heal up. And as I was healing up, I was able to hit more and more weights, or heavier weights. And there was no point in the Raleigh prep in which I was fully healthy. I just felt better and better as the weeks went on. And when I got to the platform, that's when I felt the best. But I don't think I was still 100% there, because I still felt a little bit of tenderness in the low back. I mean, now I'm 100% fine. I've gotten 4 training blocks under my belt. But before the Raleigh meet, I was just slowly getting better and better, simply because I was doing what I had to do. I was doing my mobility. I was getting my deep tissue. I was eating and sleeping. But there's no magic pill I took to just heal my back, Do
you think it's one of those things as well that I guess you probably didn't freak out because you've been injured before, and you just kind of kept moving and you kept going? So I think a lot of people, especially, I remember I did it years ago. I hurt my lower back deadlifting, and I just didn't do anything for 2 weeks, and I wondered why I was barely able to walk. And I was like, oh, I've just literally seized up. And then it took me a lot longer to get back. I'm assuming you tried to just keep moving through that as well.
Oh yeah, right after the junior nats meet, the next day we went to the airport, and there was a huge layover. It was 8 hours. So all I did that day, and I was in excruciating pain. I had to take so much ibuprofen and Tylenol that day. But regardless, all I did was walk back and forth through the terminal. I had 15,000 steps. I'm talking about 12 hours after it happened. That's all I was doing, back, forth, trying to mobilize myself as much as I can. And then slowly just bending down to my toes, going back up. So I was doing that immediately. And then within 4 to 5 days, I felt healthy enough to load something on squat. And I did I think 205 or 210 kilo or something. Obviously it hurt, but I was able to do it for a couple of reps, and I was like, wait, I feel pretty good right now. And then I went on to deadlift, and then I pulled 270 kilo, and this was only 5 days after it happened. So that's what gave me a lot of confidence. I was like, okay, I'm not actually injured. I might have aggravated it, but I'm not injured. And that's when I told my coach, I was like, I think we can go to Raleigh, because I did find out about the Raleigh invite very soon after the injury happened, but it wasn't public, obviously, because I told him, I was like, I need at least 2 more weeks to fully assess my back. So Pete Spence gave me that leeway. I trained for 2 weeks. I felt around 85%, maybe 90% better. So I was like, you know what? I have another 5-6 weeks till Raleigh. I think I'll be almost 100%. might as well take the shot and like have a redemption meet almost.
Yeah, no, it was such a good meet to watch as well. And actually, looking at your attempt selection, obviously, nationals deadlift you opened on 65 because it was literally all you could pull. But I was just looking at your squat attempts, and actually, you mirrored your openers on squat and bench at nationals as well as Raleigh. So I'm assuming the goal was roughly the same anyway, just with that turnaround. Like you were just healthy enough to obviously put it together at Raleigh.
Exactly, because like I said, I felt stronger than ever at junior nationals. And the original plan was actually to go 300 on squat, but I got the red lights, so I was like, whatever, I'll do 295. But then for Raleigh, I didn't feel as strong. One, because of the back, and two, because I was squatting to a new standard. I was going way below parallel this time, just to make sure I left no doubt on the platform. So I was like, all right, well, I don't think I'm going to get stronger right now because I only have like 8 weeks, 9 weeks in between the meets, and I'm injured. But I think I could replicate the goal I had at least. Because the range for junior nats was like 860, 875. That was the top end range. And for Raleigh, it was like 855, 870. So it was a little lower, but within the same range where I'll be happy enough to put a performance up and like be proud of it. So
yeah, definitely. And that's something else I was going to ask as well, because I remember you failing that second squat on depth. And I know obviously we can't tell from the judge's angle, but it looked like a pretty harsh call. But then I did notice with your training, like you started sinking your squats. And one thing I thought was quite interesting was it didn't really look like you lost strength doing that. Like, I know it's not a huge difference, but quite often with people, I feel like when they start sinking it that much further, they do struggle to adjust and adapt to that. But it doesn't really look like you did. Like, was it just a case of actively sinking it more? Did you change your bar position or anything else to adjust for it? Or was it just, I'll sink it?
well, the two biggest things were my squat stance. It got a little bit wider. So with a narrower stance, I can kind of get deeper. So by widening it just a little more, I can like artificially make myself like it feels like almost like artificial squat suit, right? Because I'm going so wide, and if I bottom out, I'm bottoming out at like right below parallel now to the point where like my femur is like ramming into the hip socket. And I'm not sure how healthy it is, but it feels good on my body. Like I don't feel any pain in my hips by any means. But now, because like with the narrower stance, I never bottomed out. Like I just hit the reversal before the bottom out portion, which kind of makes depth hard to gauge. But now I'm wider, and I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna go as low as my body allows me to, and that's basically where I'm at now. Also, the body weight increase. I was around like 82, maybe 83 kilo before junior nats, and then before Raleigh, I decided to go with like a big surplus, and that's when I was like 83, 84. So I gained around like 1.5 kilos between like 9 weeks, which is a lot of body weight for that short a period of time. So the widening of the stance and then the increase in body weight allowed me to maintain the top end strength, even though, yes, I was going lower.
Yeah. What is your training like? So what does your kind of week of training look like? Like how much frequency you do on each shift? Like, do you do a lot of volume? Do you do a lot of accessories? Like you've been training a long time now, so maybe you don't need to worry so much about accessories. Like what is your training like?
So frequency per week for bench is 4, squat and deadlift is 2 times. Right now, I actually did increase volume slightly because I did pull back top set intensities. So in the past, I had like, for example, 1 top set on squat and 2 back downs, and the same on deadlift. I have 1 top set and 2 back downs. But now I'm doing 1 top set and 3 back downs on squat for both primary and secondaries. The reason being, like I said, is because I'm I'm decreasing the top set intensities. So tomorrow is my last day for the SBD, or that's SBD of my week 4. There we go. And I'm taking a double with like 280 kilo. But last block, I almost did 285 for 3. So I think my top end double is between 290 and 295. I'm only taking 280, like I said. So that allows me to allocate some of that fatigue towards the back down itself. Because me and my coach decided we haven't actually progressed back downs too much in the past. So we want to take a step back real quick, build almost like a foundation, and just grow as much as we can during these 2 blocks of this mini macro cycle that we built. So this is the first block of it, and the next block we'll do the same thing, have some conservative top sets, build through the back downs, and then for our final macro, we're going to start pushing the top sets further, probably strip one of the back down sets to reduce fatigue. But yeah, I just keep the volume, or the volume is dependent on the goal at hand for the macro. Like I said, the initial macro, the first 3 blocks, I was pushing top sets, moderate back downs. Now I'm pushing back downs, moderate top sets, and then I'll do the same thing next block or the next macro where I'll push the top set, have moderate back downs again. because that definitely shows that it's been working in the past. But I think my squat, the thing it's missing is the intensity for the back down and the straight up volume. So yeah, that's like the main goal right now. And then for bench, it's pretty simple. Right now, we actually just switched programming for the tertiary and secondary day, because before I'd have a very heavy secondary and a moderate tertiary, but I still felt very beat up going into the primary because my secondary and primary are very close. They're only 1 day apart. So I'll do my primary super heavy, only one rest day, and then another secondary super heavy, and I'll be kind of cooked for the rest of the week. So now we decided to just distribute the intensity between secondary and tertiary bench. So now that's why I don't like believe in secondary tertiary for myself anymore, because they have equal importance at the moment. So they're around the same load, between 5 kilo difference and only like 1 rep difference. And then the quaternary day, I just keep a certain percent of the primary itself. So I'll like, if I'm doing like 400 kilo, or not 400 kilo, 440 pounds, 200 kilo, imagine, right? So if I'm doing like 200 kilo on bench, I'll stay within 70 to 75% on the quaternary day itself. And then if I'm doing less weight, I'll still maintain that 70 to 75%. Because I know a lot of lifters, they like to do a percent of their 1 RM on that quaternary. I just like to do a percent of the primary itself to keep it primed somewhat. So yeah, it's pretty simple. The bench volume is, I think it's pretty high right now. It's around 5 sets per day. Except for the quaternary. The quaternary I have 4. So what is that? Like 19 total sets a week for bench. And then squat, like I said, 1 top set, 3 back downs. So that's 8 total sets a week. And then deadlift, I have 1 top set, 2 back downs. So that's 6 sets a week. And then I have conventional as well for the secondary, and high bar for the secondary squats, because I want to do four full blocks of high bar conventional. And then the next 4 blocks leading up to PA Nationals, I'll do a secondary sumo and a secondary low bar.
I think that's really interesting. I think that's really interesting. No, and I also really like what you mentioned about how like you plan your quaternary day based off of what your top set is going to be on your primary day, like rather than having a set percent all the time. Like I think that's really interesting. Like I know, like with my bench, I have to keep the intensity relatively high on all 3 main days. But I always keep I do like a heavier last and press single on like what would be my tertiary day, but it's always like 10 to 15 kilos less than my planned top single for my heavier day. And I feel like that really primes you well, and like it just seems to work rather than just doing a certain percentage every time. But no, I really like that, and I like how detailed your answer was, because sometimes when I ask that sort of question, I don't get much back. And that one I got a lot back.
Yeah, I didn't go too much. I didn't even talk about accessories actually. I'm not sure if you want me to or not.
I mean, we can do. I find it so interesting hearing how everyone trains. I'm going to be honest. Like, I find it so interesting.
All right. So, all right, accessory work. I almost wave load them. So let's start with that. Week 1 will be RP like 8. For all isolations, by the way, I keep that like at failure or beyond. I like to like drop set every single set. So for triceps, for example, if I'm doing a 3x10, in reality, it's almost like a 9x10, right? Because I'm drop setting every single set. I drop at least twice per set. So I'm doing a lot of volume in that sense, because I like to really push them. Same with lateral raises and bicep curls. So only those 3 muscle groups I actually pushed at 10 or beyond. And then for all the other accessories, I push at 8, like I said, for week 1 at least. Week 2 to 3, I push at 9 for everything, and then 10 and beyond for isolations again. And then week 4, I pull back everything to like a true like 7 to 8. Even the isolations, just so I can boost recovery a little bit, because I'm doing the heaviest SPD on that week 4. So I want to like maintain as much or decrease as much fatigue as possible going into it. So that's how I like to structure the intensity for the accessories. And then the accessories that I do actually do for chest or for bench, you can call it, I only do dumbbell press and pec deck. But the pec deck, the pec deck, I lied. I only keep it RP5. I just do it for pump. That's the only accessory I cannot push. It's the pec deck. Because my chest will be fried the entire week. So I just do it for health. A big stretch, nice pause. I do like a 3x15, like was super light. So I almost reach failure, but it's so light, it's not actually generating any like fatigue. So I do that, and then what else? I do dumbbell press. I do dumbbell paused Larson dumbbell press. Actually, the paused Larson is simply there to limit the load. If not, I'll be pressing like the 150 dumbbells, which I don't want to do. It's just not safe. So I take like the 110, 115 pounders, which is like 50, 55 kilo maybe. So I do that for like a 3x12 Larson, nice tempo, nice pause. I posted some of the sets actually, and I always get a lot of feedback on them. They get like 500 shares at a time. I'm like, what is happening? It's just a dumbbell press. But yeah, so I do that. Especially if I'm trying to like be a little more specific, I'll do the dumbbell press to flat. If not, like if I'm like if I just started an off season, I'll do incline for a little bit, like 2 blocks. Because I do notice like I need that extra like horizontal exposure, like straight horizontal exposure pressing movements. So right now I am doing the flat dumbbell press, and I do feel like my bench is improving because of it. But like I said, like if I'm way out from a meet, I'll just do incline and just like get as much range of motion as I can. And that's pretty much all I do for bench. For deadlift, I only really do some like RDLs and hamstring curls. Unless you want to count like the lat pull downs and rows and all that. That's pretty self-explanatory. I think I do 2 rows and 2 pull downs a week. All on the same day, by the way. I only have 1 back day, but I just do that to get jacked and get a bigger back. And like I said, the only like true like hip extension accessory I do is the RDLs, and the only hamstring accessory I do is the hamstring curl. And then for squat, I do Smith machine BSS. I love the Smith machine BSS. I hate regular BSS for some reason. The stability aspect and like the way it feels, it's just I don't like it. But with the Smith machine, I feel the bar on my back. It feels more like an actual squat, and it takes the stability aspect out of it completely. So I'm able to push it real hard. And then I do the pendulum squat. It just feels better than a belt squat in my opinion, and better than a hack squat and a leg press. Also, there's very limited like axial loading, so my spine doesn't really get fatigued too much. So yeah, that's pretty much all the accessories I do. And I do 4 triceps and 2 biceps a week as well, and that's it.
Okay. I think that's really, really interesting. A couple of things I also like really liked you saying. So first thing was pendulum squat. So I think it was about a year ago, I had like a 9-10 month off season, and the pendulum squat was the thing that I really pushed that whole time, and my squat blew up. Before that, I tried leg press. I hate the belt squat. I don't know if it's just because I don't like it that I don't push it properly, but I've never felt a carryover or had a carryover as much as I do from pendulum to my actual squat. Never in my life.
I agree. I was doing the belt squat for like a year and a half maybe, and it's so hard to gauge, like, because every week you can add weight to it, but you subconsciously just use your arms more. So like it's so hard to actually progressively overload that. So with the pendulum, like your hands are up here. Like if you can't get it, you fall. Like you fail it. There's no cheating way around it, unless like you let go and like push the stand or something with your other hand. But yeah, the pendulum, in my opinion, that like blew up my quads the most, and I think is like the number one driving factor in squat progression, but at least the number one accessory in terms of my squat progression. So yeah.
Yeah, it's also probably the most humbling machine I've ever used as well.
So
by far. The other thing as well that I like that you mentioned that I haven't actually heard many people say, but it's something I've been doing for a long time now as well, is I push my accessories really hard from like, depending on how long my block is, let's say 4 weeks, from week 1 to 3. And I essentially deload them on that week 4, which weirdly I don't think a lot of people do, or they don't talk about if they do. But then obviously you then get that extra recovery for your main lifts on the final week. And it's not, I don't really understand why more people maybe don't talk about it or they don't do it. Like when I've said it to people before, they've been a bit confused as to the logic. They're like, oh yeah, but it's meant to be the hardest week, not for my accessories.
Exactly. I agree with that because like, I mean, maybe you can, like, I wouldn't even try to risk it. Like I've done it in the past. And I just feel so cooked coming into that primary SVD, and maybe I'm missing out like on like 0.1% of hypertrophy gains. Well, so be it. I'd rather have a stronger session and build some momentum and, hit heavier loads than to squeeze out like 3 more reps of my tricep extension. There's no real need for it in my opinion. But yeah, I'm not really sure like if people are just like hiding that because, like SHA Bob, right? Bob Matthews. I know he pushes accessories all block long. So I guess that's an example of someone that doesn't deload them. I mean, that's what I believe. That's what I've seen on his YouTube at least. Yeah. So I'm not like, if you ask him, he says otherwise, then my mistake. Oh well. But yeah, I think it is common for people to just push it to the week 4. And in actuality, like there's probably a lot of powerlifters that just skip accessories altogether. So yeah, accessories are like a iffy topic in the sport because a lot of people are not consistent with it. And we can kind of see that in terms of like injury and all that. Because if you're not pushing your accessories, I feel like your chance of injury is much, much higher because you're only stuck in like the same 3 movement patterns all year.
Yeah, I completely agree. I have to admit, like, even just with myself and with my lifters as well, like we are very high on accessories, and generally speaking, injury is pretty low. Touch wood, don't want to know, jinx that. And I do think a big part of it is just down to accessories and different movement patterns. Like SBD is not going to keep you healthy. Like, you need to move your body in different ways.
It is not. I 100% agree.
So next thing I wanted to ask you about was your recent training total. You hit 885. I believe it was meant to be a deload day or a deload week.
Yeah. So the week before, I did my week 4 primary SBD. That's where I attempted the 285 triple on squat. I failed the last rep, so it was over RP10. Bench was the 203 double. That was definitely RP10. And then the deadlift was a 345 triple. That was RP like 9, maybe 9.5. And I was so cooked after that session. I was probably like the most cooked I've ever felt. I mean, I was definitely more cooked after the 885, but like at least in that moment, I was so cooked. And then we did my my regular deload where I had like not sandbagged, but RP like 4 to 5 on every single day after that. And then I go into my SBD session. And I'm like, okay, I feel pretty good right now. And I was trying to like influence myself and cope a little bit because here in America, we have Thanksgiving, right? So I was like, okay, well, my week 4 is going to lie on Thanksgiving. It's going to land on it. And the gyms are closed. So I'm going to be like, either I got to do it a day early or a day late. And I really don't want to do that. So what if I just max out right now? That means my SBD can land a week after Thanksgiving and I can go to the gym, right? So it's just me trying to cope my way out of it and like trying to justify my actions of trying to max out. And I was warming up and I was trying to convince myself I felt good. And my buddy of mine, I asked him to spot me. I did like 595, which is 270 kilo. And it moved kind of shitty. And I was like, oh, I just misgrooved it. He's like, oh yeah, you misgrooved it. He's like, go up. So we did 290 after that, and it was so slow. And he's like, you know what? Fuck it, you're too deep in. Might as well go all out and hit the PR. Because my PR is only 295, and I just did 290 for the last warm up. Because I was thinking I got 310 on the day. I was like, oh, I need 310 right now. Obviously, that wasn't there. So he's like, you know what? Low 300, secure the PR. And I was like, you know what? I'm too deep in. I'll take it. It was RP like 11. It was so hard. But I sank it. I got up with it, and yeah, that was a nice squat session. I didn't do any back downs that day though. And then for the bench press, I told my coach, he's like, don't PR the bench, don't PR the deadlift, just deload. And I'm like, all right. But the bench actually felt pretty good. I was pretty surprised. I was not primed at all though. Like my chest was very recovered. Like I felt I felt no soreness or fatigue in the chest because the pressors recover fast. But since I had no exposure early in the week, like the heaviest load I touched was like 150 or something, and I benched 215 that day. So like I felt fresh, but I didn't feel strong. It was such an odd sensation. But I was warming up, and my friend was like, you know what? Let's just have an SBD day and like max out. And I was like, that's a good idea. Actually, I was the one that brought it up, and he was just the one that convinced me to do it. So I ended up PR on the bench, and then at that point, I'm like, all right, the deadlift has to be PR too. Might as well do it. And I actually loaded 220 on bench after the I did 215. So I did 215. I loaded 220 after. I got it. I was so close to getting it. I was right at lockout, and I just couldn't squeeze it through. And I tried it twice, actually. The second attempt at 220, I got humbled so hard, like right off the chest. It just like stapled me, and I begged my friend to catch it. He basically deadlifted 4 reds off my chest. But yeah, that was pretty humbling. But at least I felt it twice in my hands. So I think the next time I attempt 220, I'll be able to get it. But going into the deadlift now, I wanted to secure the 900 kilo total, and I needed 385 to secure it, which is around 850 pounds. And granted, like I've never touched over 800 pounds ever in my life. And I try to pull 850. So that's like 25 kilos more than 25 kilos. It is 25 kilos because I've done 360 before. And I tried 385, first time ever. I got it like 2 inches off the ground, maybe 3 inches. And I just like dropped it immediately. Like I was not trying to grind through it. And then I decided to go back down to 370. It was such a hectic day, I know. Very hectic day. And I dropped to 370 after. Secured my first ever 800-pound pull, and that totaled the 885, or secured the 885 for me. But I think if I hit the 220 bench, I would only have needed 380 on deadlift, and I think I would have gotten it. But whatever, it is what it is. So basically, I attempted 905 that day in total. I ended up getting 885 with me going down on deadlift, which is not allowed in a meet. So it's kind of like an odd scenario. But I think the top end was somewhere around like true top end, like 895 if I played my cards right. Yeah. But I didn't want to pull 895. Like I told my coach, he said low for the 895, but I was like, I need the 900. I need 900. But I think I could have got 895 that day if I just didn't load the 385 at first. And then it is what it is, whatever. I'll get it on meet day. That's all that matters.
I mean, I have no doubt you will get it on meet day, because I'm assuming your next meet is nationals, which is what, April? So you've got plenty of time.
Yeah, I got 5 blocks.
Yeah. I don't even know where to start. That was a very chaotic story. I assumed you went into the gym on a deload and you just felt great and you were like, I'm just going to go for it.
I did not feel good. I convinced myself I felt good because I wanted to not have my SVD land on Thanksgiving. That was the only reason. Because my family lives 4 hours down south. So I was like, I'm not driving 4 hours down south, have shitty sleep, not sleep in my own bed, and then push it a day later on a Friday. And like, I was trying to convince myself it was a good idea to max out that day. That was pretty much it.
I mean, it kind of was, because you did hit 88. Like, I know the 370 probably wouldn't have passed in comp, but you'd maxed out your squat, like you said, RP 10. Like, I watched it back earlier. That squat was difficult.
Yes.
You failed 2 attempts at 220 on bench as well, like all in the same session. Obviously, you hadn't programmed to go into that session, and you tried 385 before you tried 370. Like, had you gone just to 370, I think you probably would have pulled it fairly clean.
I think I had 380 clean out. Like I can't even believe I broke the floor with 370 after that 385. Like I was so cooked, and I felt like I willed that bar up or something. I don't know. Like it didn't feel good whatsoever. Like my tech felt so shitty, and then my thumbs are killing me because like warming up that like heavy with hook grip. I only got 1 shot at it, so being able to go back down, even locking out 370 was like a blessing.
That was so chaotic. I really enjoyed that story.
Thank you.
I'm assuming that's not something you would typically do. I feel like you're probably fairly dialed in normally, so I guess as a one-off, it's fair.
Yeah, first time going off program in like maybe 3 years. Like I've never done that in my life. Like I've never even okay, I have gone above the range some days, but like I never condensed days. I never like moved workouts around. I'm always doing the exact program that I'm programmed to. But yeah, that day I don't know what got into me or something, but like I don't regret it. I don't regret it though.
See, but I think I remember seeing earlier, was it your coach commented on it being like, I don't condone this, but also
yes.
like, but you hit the PB, so it's fine.
Exactly. I PR'd every lift, so it can't be too mad.
Right. So with that then, so strength at the moment, you're good for like, especially if it's programmed properly, like 885 plus now, right? 100%. You're not competing until April. You've got time. You've still, in theory, got body weight you can gain. Obviously, you've said you can recomp. Like, you've got so much time. You're healthy. What are you thinking for nationals?
Well, nationals is only 9 weeks before Worlds, so it's kind of iffy. Like, what do I do? Part of me wants to just like go all out, but I think the safer bet would just be to secure whatever it is for like the win. Well, first off, Russ is competing at Sheffield, right? So I doubt he's doing PA Nationals to begin with. So that total will just stand at Nationals for us, and whoever beats it and comes in first place will end up going to Worlds. So obviously I'll be looking at that. But then I got guys like Chris Perez, which I believe he'll show up really strong. Every meet he shows up strong. Like regardless of his like training numbers, like he has like a strength boost on meet day for some weird reason. It's crazy to see. And then we have Nori, which he actually competes this weekend, so I'm excited to see what he does. I think he just did like 825 for his last SPD in the gym. So I think he'll be like at least 850. And then we have like Atwood. Oh, Atwood, for example, man, that he just came out of nowhere again. 830 at RP like 7. So I think he'll be at 865. And then Delaney, he's like the wild card in my opinion. Like his health is kind of up and down sometimes. And his training is very volatile, and his meet performances are very volatile as well. So I have no idea where he'll be at. Like he can total 900 or like 830, and I wouldn't be surprised. Like it can be anywhere around that range. So like if I'm talking about like pure consistency, I would think Perez would be the biggest challenger outside of Russ's total at Sheffield. So I'm thinking to most likely pull for the win on the second, or put something so like ridiculous on my second attempt deadlift, to the point where like I'm totaling like 890 or something, and then have like a third attempt just for insurance, because I doubt anyone's going to go 890 plus. But I want my top end. Well, I assume my top end will be around like 9 to maybe 910 if everything goes right. Because I believe I had 900 if I just tapered and had singles, and I think I could have done that pretty easily. And like the day after the SPD session, my body weight was 82.6. It was so low. So like I think I was 83 and a half, maybe 84 that morning. Because like recently, like my diet, not my diet. My diet's been good. It's just I haven't been eating enough, because force feeding over and over again just gets so boring. And having like 35,000 or 3,500 calories a day is just like very monotonous when you do it day in and day out. So my calories did drop a little bit subconsciously, and my body weight did go back down. But right now I am bulking back up. I'm around 84. I'm 185 this morning, so that's like 8. I think it's 84 on the dot actually. So I was 84 on the dot this morning. So that's a nice upward trajectory again. And that's after Thanksgiving, where I'm feasting like crazy. So I have a lot of food in me right now, and I'm also carbing up today for tomorrow's SPD session, which will be a huge session for me. But yeah, I think by nationals, 900 plus for sure. But I may only do like 890 just to save gas and not burn myself out before Worlds, which is, like I said, 9 weeks after.
Yeah, I definitely want to talk to you about obviously the short turnaround between the two, but I also want to talk about the 83 battle at nationals.
Yeah.
So entry, I find it really strange that your entries open so early. Like in the UK, our entries literally open like 8 weeks out of comps, so we have no idea until like nearly there. But there's people already entering for a comp in April, which is just crazy. It's unheard of over here. But yeah, so obviously you're ranked first at the moment, and I mean it's going to stay with that, I'd imagine. Like Russ, like you said, Russ, even if he beats that at Sheffield, I can't imagine he'll do both, especially with World Games as well. But you've got Delaney, Chris Perez, Angelo. I don't know if you follow Angelo's training, but I noticed Angelo's training's been going really, really well as well recently. And then Sean Jin as well. I don't think was he always in 83, or did he recently move up? Or did he consider moving up to 93?
No, he was 80. He was 83 for a long time. He won Junior Worlds, right? And then he said he was going 93 for a minute, and then after the Jerns thing happened where he beat Ruts and all that, and then I did the 865, and then Ade did the 861. Like, I think his motivation to go back down like increased greatly. So he's definitely 83 now. He just competed as well. I think he did like 810 or something at a local meet. So I think he'll be in the battle for sure. I'm not sure if like he's in contention for podium just yet. We'll have to see how training goes, because he is pretty injury prone as well. But hopefully, he comes in with his best package in PR. So
yeah, so you've got those guys already entered. Plus, like you said, Nori moving over. Really interesting to see what he puts up this weekend. This weekend?
Yeah, this weekend. He actually posted on his story that he needs new Hyper Vs. So I have a friend of mine that like wholesales powerlifting equipment. So I hit him up. I was like, "Yo, Nori needs the new pair of shoes. Might as well sell it to him." So yeah, hopefully he does bench something nice. Because actually, I'm not sure, because like the bench depth thing is, we haven't seen it yet in competition. His bench is his moneymaker, so I think he's still good for like at least 210, even with the depth rule. Like, let's say he gets called on it, I think he can still come around, sink a little more, and take 210 for a ride. So
yeah, no, I agree. It'd be really interesting to see. I feel like, was the last meet he did nationals when he got an extra bench attempt and it was just chaos? Was that the last meet he did?
Oh yeah, nationals. He what are you doing nationals? Oh, nationals. He got like 5 attempts or something.
Yeah, he went like 9 out of 11 attempts or something.
Yeah, it was something crazy. He went first time ever hitting nine attempts for him actually. So that was nice to see. 9 out of 11, but still nine full attempts is crazy to see.
It'll be interesting to see how it goes. I think USAPL is better than IPF in certain ways, and in certain ways it's not. I feel like that meet made me really, obviously I've never competed in USAPL, I could be completely off with this, but just from like spectator point of view, I think IPF is going to be, or like Powerlifting America for him is probably going to be more set on what they think of his lifts, like rather than very hit and miss, oh, we'll just give you bonus attempts. I think it will be interesting to see how he gets on. And I do think it will be, I think it will just be more of a set yes or no rather than mixed opinions on it. But he's had ages to sort it right. He's got lifters in both feds, I assume. So, well, yeah, he definitely has. So,
yeah, that's right. I mean, the USAPL thing was because there was a rule change that wasn't publicized like a month before. So that's why, like, it was like, what do you do in that aspect? Like, I don't think there's a rule saying if we don't publicize a rule, you get another free bench attempt. Like it was so nuanced. Like there's no way to like what do you even do in that situation? So I think they just gifted it to him. And I think USAPL had something like big against Nori and like the way he lifts. It just doesn't look very pleasant to the average viewer. At least, not my eye. I like the way he lifts. Like it's very technically sound. You have to learn to love it, right? Like it's only a powerlifter can love that type of tech. So yeah, like I think he'll be fine come PA Nats. At least we'll see in 2 days or 3 days whenever he competes.
Am I right in thinking the rule was to do with his grip? I feel like I remember this being the thing. It was because he.
Oh, that was one. Yeah, that was one of the rules too.
And they said he hadn't fully gripped the bar, and it was like, well, he's always benched like that.
Yeah. So, that was the rule. Okay, I remember now. The rule was you couldn't like what's called like pinch grip, right?
Yeah.
Because it was pinch gripping it, and then they revoked it, and then they brought back the rule again without telling anybody. So Marcellus thought they revoked the rule, and because they made both of those announcements publicized that they brought the rule back and then they revoked it, but they never made the announcement that they brought it back for the second time. It was so weird. It was the dumbest thing I've ever seen, but it worked out. No, that actually happened at the Arnold as well. It happened at the Arnold too.
That's crazy. No, it's going to be really interesting. What I was actually going to say when I was going through the list of 83s, though, it looks like there's potentially going to be like 5, give or take, of you hitting more than what won Worlds this year. Like at least, probably significantly over like world record or above, depending on obviously what gets done at Sheffield. Like that is going to be insane. Like you say, you'll hopefully have enough of a lead that you don't need to push everything, but obviously you have the option to if you need to. Yeah. Do you follow the other guys in your weight class quite closely, or do you kind of just leave that and just show up on meet day and do what you know you can do?
Well, I'm like a powerlifting nerd, so like I view it in the sense I was like, as a fan, and then like I'm like, oh shit, they're so strong, and I'm like, wait, I'm the rival, like I can't be saying this, but like I'm not like intimidated by like any means, because at the end of the day, we're just lifting weight, like it doesn't mean much. I mean, like I lift 10 kilos more than you, and like am I a better human now? Like no, but yeah, I kind of view that as motivation though. Like okay, these guys are strong, I got to get better. I'm not too worried about their lifts though, because my deadlift is like. Not leaps and bounds over them, but because like Angelo, for example, we have a very similar deadlift. We're both going to be like 370 plus, I'd say. At least I hope he's going to be 370 plus. And then for bench, like his squat is for sure going to blow mine out of the water. Like my squat it's slowly improving. We're going to get there. But if I get like 310, I'll be happy with it. And then my bench can make up a lot of ground. And then the deadlift, I think, is just like the cherry on top where I can just like load up whatever I need. And I basically have the final say. So my position within the rankings and the standings is basically all put on me. Like by that, my deadlift is it is the decision maker, and that's what I like, because I don't want to sit back and watch like other lifters go above me, right? Like I want to be the one to make the decision, and I've pulled for the win like 4 meets in a row or something, and I've hit every single one. So I think it's a very reliable deadlift. It's a very reliable weapon I have. So I'll just bank on that again, and hopefully it goes all good.
No, I think it's really interesting. I'm very excited to see how that all unfolds. It feels weird that it's still so far away, because I think last year Sheffield was a little bit later, wasn't it? And then Nationals a little bit earlier. And I feel like the turnaround between the two felt really short. So let's say you get selected for the American team, Powerlifting America. What are you thinking? So are you thinking basically pull back for Nationals to then be able to go all in for Worlds? What are you thinking there? Like it is a night. Is that too short of a turnaround that you would typically want, or?
Oh no, I think it'll be fine. I mean, I've done a quicker turnaround when injured and still PR'd. So like I think I'll be all good. But I'm definitely saving more gas just in case. For the British team, obviously we have Jurens and Ade both going against me. It's almost like the American Revolution Part 2 right there. So hopefully I can stand strong for America and hold them off. But I think they're the biggest competitors, I'd say. Ade for sure, the sky's the limit on his potential. And then Jurens, like he's like a very huge wild card. For some reason, like he was not progressing for years on end, and then all of a sudden just blows up at the age of like 40 years old. Like it's crazy. Not to talk shit about him or anything. He is an older gentleman though, in powerlifting sense. Like he's been powerlifting before like before my first meet ever. Like, so being able to like see his progress so late in his career is kind of like astonishing. So if he stagnates, I wouldn't be surprised. But if he blows up, I wouldn't be surprised either. But then Ade, he's just climbing, climbing, and climbing. So those two are my biggest challengers, I'd say. Besides of getting out of the U.S. to begin with, like with against Delaney and then whatever Russ does at Sheffield. So
yeah, I fully thought you were about to say Durins was competing. I think I'm echoing.
What was that?
No, I fully thought you were going to say Durins was competing before you were born. I was like, he's not that old.
Oh, he's almost a master, so.
I think he's like 35. Like, he's still got time. It's fine. But no, obviously compared to yourself as well. I think Ade's mid-20s. I'm not sure, but like,
yeah, he just aged out junior. He's like 24, I believe.
Yeah, so like you've got so much time to keep progressing. Obviously, you've been doing it a long time as well, which will have an impact on how much more progression you have. But I think I'm not sure what you think on this. But obviously, you mentioned earlier, like going through puberty is essentially being on steroids. Like your testosterone is so high and stuff. Like, do you think the fact that you did train consistently through that period is what kind of propelled you to where you are as well?
In a sense, yes, because I'm pretty sure you know what like epigenetics are, right? Where like the environment plays a role in how your genetics are expressed. So I'm like not a big believer, but I believe that if you play a sport growing up, your body will adapt to that sport. You can look at gymnastics, right? Like those girls are super elastic, very strong, also short. Well, that's mostly because of the overtraining and lack of diet to stay light. But your body will almost like mold into the sport which you're going to, especially in puberty, like when you're still very moldable, right? Versus when you're an adult trying to join a sport, it's like the saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but you can always teach a puppy new tricks, right? So I think that played a huge role. I'm not saying now like, oh, if you go play basketball, you're gonna be 7 feet. Like that's not happening. Like, there is some sort of like artificial selection within the sport itself, but there's also some sort of molding as well along with it. So yeah, I think training, especially the amount of volume I was doing as a kid, like I was doing like TSS style like programming. So I think that's what helped my body stay like so like injury free, because like my tendons and joints and ligaments are just like super elastic and strong right now because of the sheer intensities I was doing and almost like borderline overtraining, right? Because my recovery was absolute shit. Like I'm waking up at 7 a.m. to go to school. I had like 3 jobs. Like it was so bad. But it all worked out, and I think my body is super resilient right now. And now I'm basically able to have like a second wind of puberty by bulking back up.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's actually a really interesting point. Right. So we've kind of covered most of your training. Obviously, I think the plan for next year is fairly simple in that you want to get to Worlds, you want to win Worlds, and then I'm assuming Sheffield is the plan.
That'd be huge, Sheffield.
Yeah. So you said you're a massive fan of the sport. So I wanted to ask you your thoughts on Sheffield that's coming up. Obviously, Ade got the wild card after breaking the record after a lot of dispute about whether the record was broken. But he got that wild card. So I just want to basically ask what you're thinking, like going into Sheffield. Like, I'm assuming you're really excited to see, obviously, what the 83s put up. But I just wondered if there were any other lifters that you're excited to see. I don't know how much you follow the women's side as well.
I mean, I do follow the women's side slightly. Like Agatha, like I think she's gonna clean sweep pretty easily. Like imagine like 630 at 69. Like that would be like that would probably solidify her GOAT discussion debate, right?
Yeah.
If it does that, and then after that, like 630 at 69, and then she moves up to 76, right? 76. Yeah. Imagine like 660 there, and then like 84, like 700. Like she like whatever she does is like she can say she'll total 800, and like I'll believe it. Like she's that type of lifter, and she's like 21, maybe 22. Like we're the same age.
She might be about to turn 22. I think I looked this up the other day. One thing I also was saying as well. So she said about like challenging Amanda Lawrence, right, as an 84, like in the long term. I wouldn't be surprised if I'm a massive Amanda fan. Like I'm an 84 lifter. I've looked up to her since I started, but I wouldn't be surprised if Agatha out-totals her either as an incredibly light 76 or as a 69. Like I fully believe she might do this.
Well, I think this is her last year at 69. It would only make sense. It would be because there's no like true incentive to stay another year at 69, especially if the world record's gonna be so much higher at Sheffield now. But if she does like 630, moves up, dominates the 76s, and then moves one up again, like I don't think she'll ever, first of all, fill out 84. She can't fill out 84. She's not nearly tall enough. but I think she can still rival Amanda like as like a 76.5. Like she'll have to like drink Gatorade or something right before weigh-ins to get that scale up. And I think with her genetics and just her God-given gift, like she can definitely rival Amanda, not even close to being filled out. So that'd be crazy to see. And then we got Aliyah coming back down. That's huge. You can't forget about Evie. Like there's so many like good female lifters. But I think first place is pretty like cut and dry. It's going to be Agatha. And then for the male side now, I think if all goes well, the cut goes well, obviously Shell. It can't be, that's not, yeah, I'm not going to say that's contentious, the debate. It's pretty cut and dry there as well. After that, it's either going to be probably maybe Kastensen. Like his training is going really good, but his meet performances are very volatile. So I think just based off reliability, Perk will come in second. But then Kastensen, because of simply the world record being so low in the 66s, like it's probably the weakest class by far. Not throwing any shade at these guys, but like it just statistically it's the weakest class. So I think Kastensen has the ability to podium, but I think reliability wise, it would be Perk. And then after that, I would have said Bob. That's a huge debate though. Like I'm not sure why he turned it down. I mean, I know why. I know what he said, but I don't understand the mindset behind it. But regardless, he's not going to be there. I think Ash. He keeps getting injured. I can't even say Ash anymore. Okay,
it's so difficult on the men's
I know.
side.
Maybe Ade. Maybe one of the 83s because the world record being 861, Ade wants close to 9. So if he gaps that world record by like 30 kilos, I think they'll secure it. And then after him, it's a toss-up between everyone like Gustav and maybe Jesus. I don't know. Jesus' world record is just, it's impossible to beat. Like his downfall is being too strong. Like that sucks. Like having the greatest performance of all time like negatively affect you in the future is just, it doesn't make sense in my brain. But that's how Sheffield has scored. So it is what it is for him. But I'm just grateful that Perk and Shell are breaking the world records now. So next year, I'll have a very, not easy chance, but I'll have a more likely chance to podium at Sheffield if I were to qualify, or not next year, 2026. I'll have a higher chance to qualify for 2026 Sheffield and hopefully podium for that. Unless Rondell comes over, which is a whole different, I'm not sure what's happening there because I know he said something about the suspension ending in like, I think February. So he's able to compete at Worlds, but Trinidad Nationals is in November, so he can't go to Trinidad Nationals. Like, if you have any insight on that, let me know. But I think it does qualify. Yeah.
I listened to his King of the Lifts. It was from like April. I didn't actually listen to it at the time. I listened to that. I think it was yesterday, and I was thinking the exact same thing because I was like, well, surely I think I originally heard that he was going to do it as an American resident potentially. I don't know if that's something he can do. But then he'd have to do a meet to qualify, wouldn't he? Like it doesn't matter what way, he'd have to do a meet to qualify. But then obviously I don't say he's running out of time because it's not until April. But yeah, you'd think something would have been said. But on that podcast, which was back in April, he was talking as if he will be at Worlds next year because part of the conversation was about Bob potentially skipping Sheffield to then compete against Rondell when he does come over and stay as a 120. And it was talking very much as if it's going to happen next year. So yeah, I think like from your perspective, like if Rondell comes over, obviously it could change Sheffield for 2026. Yeah. Something else also interesting as well. I don't know if you've seen this. So it looks like they're going to be moving Sheffield. So there's going to be 2 that year.
That'd be crazy. I mean, that's a lot of competing in a year, I'd say, because you got the first Sheffield, which I assume I will be there because I think I'm going to win Nats or Worlds next year. And then we have USAPL Nationals right after. And then you have Worlds. And then some lifters they have their Nats, they have their Sheffield, they have their Worlds, they got World Games, and they got Sheffield, like 5 meets, which I think Agatha's going to win actually all of those, which would be, that's the GOAT. That's the GOAT of all powerlifting right there. But yeah, like 5 mega meets basically in 1 year. That's great for a powerlifting fan, but not for the competitor itself. So I don't even know what to think about that. I'll just have to see how like my body feels, and hopefully like I do qualify for the second one in 2026. So
I mean, it could be a really good paycheck like for the year. You'd be setting yourself up there. But yeah, no, I also thought it was really funny because they moved British Nationals to November. So British Nationals used to always be like March time, but now Euros has been moved to March. And with Sheffield being early in the year and then Wales being middle of the year, they thought they'd move Nationals to the end of the year. So we've just had it last weekend. And then I saw that Sheffield is now being moved to November. I was like, and they've just come out with a rule as well for the Team GB that dispensation is no longer going to be a thing. So if you want to represent Team GB, you have to turn up to Nationals and earn your spot as of next year. So there's a bit of controversy behind the logic of that. Obviously, it's to try and make the British a spectacle. But then I was like, if they keep that rule in for 2026, and let's say like Durans and Ade again both get selected for Sheffield, are they going to have to compete like 2 weeks apart at Nationals and Sheffield? Like, that's surely not the best thing for the team.
Maybe they'll do the American rule where the total stands at Nationals itself. That could be an option. But yeah, that's physically impossible. You can't have 2 back-to-back meets within like 2 weeks. It just can't be done. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm thinking the dispensation rule will probably be taken out. Like normally, I think they both did it this year. Like they applied for dispensation because they've got Sheffield in February, so they didn't have to compete. And essentially, the total they've already done, or what they do at Sheffield, will be qualifying for next year. But no, it'd be really interesting to see, and I'm very interested to see them do 2 Sheffields in 1 year. I don't think it's technically been fully confirmed because I looked. Obviously, the location and stuff is confirmed on the IPF calendar, but I don't think the date is fully confirmed. So potentially, it might not happen. But I think it would be very interesting if it does.
I mean, for long term, I think it's better for the Americans because now the Sheffield's not going to be too close. But in your eyes, it's probably not the best scenario. So
yeah, we'll see. But then when is NAPF? So I know NAPF, like I think NAPF is kind of our Euros equivalent, I would say. But I think Euros is a bit more prestigious. NAPF is definitely getting more behind it, but that's around similar time, isn't it? Or is that a little bit earlier than November?
It's late August, early September usually, so not too close.
Yeah. But no, I think to be fair, that was most of my questions. I was just intrigued to see your thoughts on obviously Sheffield. Definitely agree with you about Agatha. She's just in a league of her own. And it's exciting. I don't think anyone can like powerlifting and not watch what she's doing. Is there, I mean, we'll shout out your coaching, and if people want to get in touch, if you want them to get in touch, obviously you said you've had a lot of interest, let us know where people can. Anything else you've got coming up that you want to shout out as well, just obviously let us know.
So yeah, for my coaching, there's a form in my bio, so you just gotta fill that out, and then after you fill it out, just click my coaching page. It's also in my bio. It's P4P_coaching. So just DM me that you filled it out and you're ready to work. And I'll take a look at your page. I'll look at the form, and then after that, we'll go from there. And then besides that, I would like to shout out my coach, I guess, Luke Eckerly. He is one of the smartest people I've ever met. He's becoming a neurosurgeon, so he's a genius in himself. And then my fiance as well. Shout out to her. She's an amazing woman. And I'm very blessed to have her in my life. And yeah, that's pretty much it. There's not much else to really talk about. I got an SBD session tomorrow, which is cool. Hopefully I'll total I think I'm 820 maybe. Pretty sub max. Like a 40 deadlift double, 280 squat double, and like a 200 fatigue single. I don't know. I guess that's cool. I don't know. There's nothing else though.
It's fairly cool. But no, I think to be honest, anyone listening to this probably follows you anyway and looks at what you're doing. So I'm sure they'll see it. This will be coming out a week or so time, so hopefully, I mean, if you haven't posted, we'll know it didn't go to plan.
I'll post it. If I fail, I'll still post it. It's fine.
No, thank you so much for joining me though. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you for having me.